When going through the concept of contract review and common content of contracts, people often think about that they're going to have a 2 or 3 or 4 year contract, and they're somewhat proud of having that kind of element within their contract. But actually, if you go to look at almost every single one of these contracts, as you would expect, there's an opportunity to opt out of the contract. So you're not bound by 5 years to work any more than they're bound to keep you. And so they're really at-will contracts, meaning the standard way in which everybody works in any professional endeavor. If you decide you're not going to do that anymore, you can quit. And there are standards, and of course important professional standards about taking care of your patients, but they usually have some kind of 60 or 90-day notice period. So one of the first things that we look at when we're looking at contracts is to help the potential employee understand the nature and the length of this contract. And sometimes people want to get a longer contract when actually there is no length to the contract. The contracts also include a general description of the services to be rendered. You're promising you have certain qualifications for the contract. These would include licensure, ability to be insured for professional liability insurance, and other elements that are really important in order to become credentialed within many of these institutions. There are provisions that have to do with billing. Generally speaking, you would, of course, as one would expect, surrender all of your billing that you're doing through any of these entities, insurance companies, Medicaid, etc., to the entity, because you're working for the entity, even though the billing may be done in your name, and you're surrendering that authority. Other elements that I think are fairly common would be the professional liability coverage itself. What we look for when we're doing a review is what kind of coverage is there, if it's described, the limits of coverage, and whether or not tail coverage is needed. That has to do with the type of malpractice coverage you have. Beyond that, you wind up with other elements like non-solicitation and non-competes. These are regulating the behavior of people after the contract is left. These provisions that say you can't solicit patients, employees, or possibly compete against this entity or in this general location will last for an independent period of time afterwards. The non-solicitation type agreements usually don't have any geographic description and may last for a year or two. The non-competes very often will range from 1 to 5 years and then different descriptions.